Well, we're all good to go. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Future Work Scotland. Thank you for joining us for our May edition. If this is your first time, very well, welcome to you. If you've been with us before, welcome back. We're thrilled to be doing this session. Very excited and looking forward to it. We think it's a very relevant and topical discussion, so we can't wait to get into it. And I will hand over to our amazing speaker in a few minutes just to go through the usual formalities. We have a very simple code of conduct here at Future Work Scotland. We simply ask that you be respectful to one another. We want everyone to have a great experience, and that's all there is to it. So yeah, let's all enjoy it and respect one another's views and perspectives. We typically tend to have a question and answer session at the end of our speakers' talk. But if you do have any questions that come up as we go along, please feel free to drop them in the chat. If you can prefix with them with a Q, that makes it easier for us to spot them amongst the other ongoing conversation that might typically take place. So that would be helpful, and then we might take a little bit of questions along the way if Jenny's happy to do so, and there'll be little bits of interaction here for you too, so you get the opportunity to join in. And then we'll share any announcements, etc., at the end, as we typically do. If you have anything you'd like to share with the group and the wider community, we're happy to let you take a minute or so to do so as we bring the session to a close. And with that, I am thrilled and delighted to welcome Jenny Campbell to Future Work Scotland. One of the things that really delights me about welcoming Jenny here is not just about the amazing things she's going to talk about, but she's also Edinburgh based. So she's local, and we don't often have a local speaker because our speakers tend to come from all corners of the globe. So it's really nice to have a local face and voice. So we're thrilled to have Jenny here. And one of the things I really liked about, well, one of the things we love about Jenny's work, one of the things that really made me laugh, and you'll see it in Jenny's bio, is, and this is probably the best way I could summarize our speaker tonight, is Jenny is nuts. Yes, nuts about unlocking the resilience of everyone. So I think that's probably all I need to say. So that's a fine introduction. Of course, Jenny is very experienced in what she does. She's researched this for years. She's multi-talented. She's a researcher, a speaker, a practitioner, a systemic expert, author, teacher, and the list probably goes on and on and on. And what brings us all together this evening, well, if this is even for you, of course, is that Jenny is also the author of this fabulous read, which I'm enjoying, as is Donald. And this will form the basis of our session discussion this evening. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Jenny. So Jenny, welcome to Future Work Scotland.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Good evening, good morning, wherever you're coming in from. Um, I'm very glad that you stopped there, Sath, because I thought you were then going to go into all the other things, like, she's quite old, she's a bit saggy around the middle, So, yeah, real pleasure to connect with you guys, to learn a bit about your network. It's quite extraordinary, actually. I hadn't known about it until I connected in with Donald, so congrats on this. And a kind of learning community across the globe is really cool. So I think keep at it. Learning is actually one of the core enablers of resilience. So if you're finding that you're not sort of able to withstand pressure, or go out and just learn something new, whether it's like how to cook an omelette properly, or how to actually speak a different language, or how to do tango dancing. I mean, whatever comes makes you kind of step outside of your comfort zone. That's actually part of resilience. So a great pleasure. Well, there we go. And in the practice of drinking and learning about whiskey, which is one of my delights as well. So no wonder we connect really well. So I am hoping, part of my contract with you tonight is you keep yourself safe, right? So you don't share anything that's kind of too emotionally charged or whatever that will, send you into a place of difficulty. Definitely come up with questions. I'm absolutely in your service, and I'm hoping that out of this you'll get both some of the theory and some practicalities and some big thought provokers for yourself. And whether that's in your work or whether life, your personal life, or in any context really. So just make sure that whatever you decide to share or what you're thinking about, that you're keeping yourself okay. And then the other thing is dial down the effort, right? So some of this will be quite big stuff, and actually we tend to come into learning and think, yeah, right, no, we have to learn and put the learning out and all this, and you've been probably coming in from work, or if you're in work right now and ducking out for an hour. Actually, it's really interesting how the brain works. So if you actually sort of dial down the effort, actually relax more, maybe don't fall asleep, or if you're going to fall asleep, just make sure you're on mute, would you? But actually the brain it gets very fixated, and it sort of goes into a particular groove if you're doing the same thing day in, day out. And for it to really be open to learning, you need to shift the state, right? So maybe shrug it off, your day, have a stretch, have a yawn, think about something sort of quite energetic for yourself. And that actually will change the way that you experience this. It'll be more enjoyable, and it'll also, some more of it will actually go in. So yeah, so that's my contract with you. I hope that's okay. And I'm going to be sharing some resources today, and tell you a little bit about who we are, and we as the resilience dynamic. And let's hope this comes through. Everyone see that all right? Just give me a yes from one of Sath or Donald if you're seeing it okay. I just want to make sure.
Yes, we are.
Great, brilliant. Thank you very much. So I hope this thing goes down. There we go. So who we are, the resilience dynamic. I'm not the only nutter. There's a bunch of us. So there's about 100 people in my community that I run, all with this lens, with this framework. We're generally, there's about 2/3 of us that are professional coaches, and there's about 1/3 of people who are internal practitioners. And what they're doing is changing things like the policies, how performance might be looked at, how leaders and managers are trained in this stuff internally in their own organization. So they're a brilliant bunch of people. Just make sure I can page down, otherwise you won't see them. That's some of them. Great faces all over, mainly in the UK, but we've got some in mainland Europe, some in Australasia, but we don't have anyone in the Americas yet, North America and South America. So that's one of our goals. And what we do is coaching, but we also use a tool called our management dashboard. So we're into data, and that's another thing of mine, is I'm a bit of a data nut. And part of that is people find it extremely unusual to know that to measure this kind of stuff, resilience and well-being, is actually very straightforward. So when I first started this, I would say that people thought it was kind of lie on the psychologist, couch and be talked to like, Dr. Freud. Not anything like that. It's extremely straightforward. So you and your teams can get a hold of the implications for yourself, the range in which you're operating, your score across the team, and actually because of that, activate one or two really practical things. So that's kind of what we do, and we're all about this healthy high performance. So Sath said I'm systemic. This is one of our models, and I tend to be at the kind of complicated end. Complicated things I enjoy very much. So that's who we are. And the very first lesson, the one of 10 that I'm going to share with you, and in fact I'm going to invite you, that if you are tired today, that if you are knackered or you have something else going on, notice lesson 1, maybe 2 and 10 as the most important. So if you don't catch the others, you can always watch the recording again, etc. But this one is a biggie. Lesson 1 is Remember, you've got it. You've got this. This photo is taken in a park very near where my parents have lived. I've been going to this park for 40 years. I'm 58 now, so it was when I was sort of a late teen. And actually, I was very unwell at that point. I had ME, or myalgic encephalomyelitis, is a big mouthful, that. And for 4 years, it was pretty tough for me to walk at all. Now, in that photo, I am standing. I'm quite small, actually, so and you won't see this from the photo, but I'm actually standing on a tree trunk, and it's making me feel tall. And that tree trunk and that view has come to be one of the places where it doesn't matter what's going on in my life. It could be highs, lows, difficulties, challenges, uncertainties. And boy, do we not have, that all over our world today. This is a place where I just feel good. I feel like, oh yeah, I'm all right. I can do this stuff. I can navigate this. This is okay. And it comes immediately to me. I don't have to try. I just go on the tree trunk and ta-ra! There I am. And I'm feeling quite in the groove. I'm feeling pretty cool. I'm feeling like, yeah, I've got this. And I'm wondering if you might have a place like that. If you do, just put it in the chat. Just see what comes up when you're thinking about it. Is there a place you go to where you just go, life's all right, okay, I can handle this? I'll give you a minute to think about it. Yeah, brilliant. On a beach. Often it's outside, right? But it could be that you're going to a place inside in your house. It could be that you have a musical instrument that you play, for example, or, maybe that you are with somebody, and that's actually what makes the difference. And the reason why this kind of thing works is you feel psychologically safe here, right? So at the heart of resilience is this idea that you've got it. It's okay. You are okay. Now, not everybody in this world is born in an environment that actually allows that or fosters that. What's really interesting from our research is you can learn that. And they're called secure bases, right, in psychological terms. So this is a place which is a secure base. So when I stand on that tree trunk, I feel, yep, I got it. But it also sort of calls me to be the best of myself. Like, I stand tall on that tree trunk. I love it up there. It's not even very big. You would laugh at me if you saw me feeling all tall and stretched out. So, and that's a really interesting thing about a secure base. So it could be people, it could be activities, it can be a place, it could be a pet, where you just feel really yourself. You're really at ease, and you're called to be the best of yourself, right? And it just makes you feel like you've got stuff to do in this world, to get on with it, to actually activate. So, whether it's your garden, Debbie, or the beaches, my invitation to you is not just to count on that as if it's like, oh yeah, every now and again I can do that. Resilient people, and we'll come to actually debate a bit what resilience is, actually do this absolutely all the time. Like, they give themselves the right to feel good a lot of the time. I mean, I would go here maybe weekly. And while I was unwell for that period, I would go daily. Right. So, don't just sort of, assume that it's always going to be, just foster it. Go and get it. You've got that resource available to you, go and grab it. So that's your first basis, is go and get the things that actually really work for you and activate them more often in your life. Yeah. So next up, let's go to this. What is resilience? Now, you're all online. I know that you might have another device. But go to Mentimeter. Here's your code. It's 66874812. And I think Donald put it into the chat. And let's see what you think about resilience. Let's go and have a look. And I'll just open this out. Oops, sorry. Just here. And I hope you're actually being able to enter. Yeah, fantastic, Donald. Listening to the birds is brilliant.
You've got things coming through, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So withstanding, keeping on, resistance, that's an interesting one. Being stubborn. Now, there's an interesting thing about being a Scot and that stubbornness, that resistance. Maybe it's inbred in us. Lessons, yeah, getting back up, confidence, comfort, that's an interesting one, and recovery. So there's a lot here about recovery, not being exhausted, right? So actually having some energy. Energy is another direct driver of resilience. So we'll go on to that as part of my lessons. So let's go on to the next question and actually say, so that was what resilience means to you personally. What does it mean in your work? Is there any difference? Mm-hmm. There's a big word. Right slap bang in the middle of that screen there.
Sorry, that was me.
Yeah, it's magic. I mean, I think we all talk about coping a lot, right? And coping is a healthy level of resilience, but it's not the highest by any means. It means you're kind of getting through the day, but you don't have anything left in the tank. Patience and grace. Wow. In work, that's a beautiful word, isn't it? Any more for any more. It might have been the same for you. Just leave it one more minute. Yeah. So patience as well, patience and experimentation. So here we've got some interesting things, new opportunity, but also thick skin. Yeah, lovely. Makes you think, doesn't it, when you see other people's words like this? So there's really a different flavor here. Personally, there's a lot about recovery or bouncing back or resisting or, having the strength to keep going. And here there's much more about flexibility and there is coping and recovery, but there's teamwork, there's patience, there's grace. Feels lighter actually, or at least more opportunity here. So an interesting set of words. Thank you very much for that. So I'm going to come back to our slides and just explain a little bit more of our theory. So I find this, I've been researching, as Rosat says, I'm a bit of a resilience nutter. If you cut me in two, I'd have the rings of resilience inside me, like a tree. So I've been researching this since 2007. And I used to think it was all about sort of withstanding and, bouncing back was a real biggie, right? Coping, bouncing back, they were the big ones, especially from a work point of view. But actually, what we learned in the research, and it has borne out all the way through, is that resilience is about adapting. So every challenge brings a change. It effectively is an invitation to change something. All right, that's an interesting way of thinking about, about challenges and pressures. There's an invitation to change something. And the measure of your resilience is the measure of your capacity for that change. So coping, for example, And this is a diagram of coping, is where your capacity is equal to the demand upon you, right? You're getting through the stuff. It's pretty good. It's cool. You're getting there. But one of those things, if it's lower, if your capacity is lower, the demand shoots up, actually you start to get out of kilter. So what you might start to do, and we're thinking about capacity in many ways here, it's the time that you've got. That's one part of capacity, but it's especially the mental space that you've got to be able to see things for what they are, to be able to prioritize, to get perspective, to be able to manage in a paceful or sort of an easy, relatively easy way across all the demands that you've got. So instead of sort of frantically juggling balls, is to sort of, sort the balls out about which ones you want to juggle today, and then leave the other ones because they can stand, they can wait in the cupboard. So this is actually very dynamic, right? I mean, demand goes up and down, and you might feel that, in one context in work, you're in the groove, it's pretty cool, your capacity's great, you're feeling at ease, you're very open, you're potentially learning. But in another, maybe you've got some really difficult people around you. Maybe the challenges are such that it's so tense that people can't even talk about things. In which case your capacity is probably lower. The demand is much higher here and you are not at ease. It's maybe difficult to voice your opinion. It's maybe difficult to say no to things. So this is a very dynamic relationship. And to show you a little bit about that, I want to show you this video.
Are you curious about how your team is really feeling? We can equip you all with the data behind it. Many organisations do not know how to marry up the drive for performance, you might call it productivity or even effectiveness, versus the workforce well-being. It may feel like a polarity, an either or. If you plot them, you notice they literally pull in different directions. The trick, of course, to healthy high performance is to attend to both, and that's what fostering resilience gives you. Here's how it works in practice. Disconnected is where both well-being and performance are low. It's the absent zone. You feel it, they feel it about you. Next, burnout risk. It's where the drive for performance is much higher, but at the cost of well-being. Things feel frantic, overwhelming. It's a real danger zone for well-being, because often those in this zone tell themselves they should do more, be better. They are blindsided to the impact on their well-being. What happens if you invest more in well-being? Chilling is the next zone. But look at where performance is. At best, you get variable engagement depending on people's motivation. Your employee might feel in the groove, but are they doing everything you need them to? The variability may cause uneven workloads and responsibilities, and that in turn can cause real tension. What you want to do is invest in both performance and well-being. Riding the waves is that exciting place where you're punching through challenges, feeling the adrenaline surge. It also goes up and down, so you can achieve both performance and well-being. That's what attending to your resilience, your capacity for change, will give you. Resilience habits foster healthy, high performance. And it's going to be worth it. Not only can you successfully ride the waves in a more healthy way, you can also achieve what we call breakthrough resilience. Breakthrough is a wholly different kind of zone. You operate more at ease, with more time to think straight. You have surplus capacity to consider new solutions, innovate, sense what's coming through, and put plans in place to manage things proactively. It's smoother, it's more satisfying, it's adaptive performance. You feel good, and you are nailing it. You might already be wondering which zone you personally are in, and what of your team, or even your organisation. The key to knowing what the best action to take to move towards breakthrough is to be super clear where you are right now. Don't assume it, measure it. The resilience dynamic can equip you and your team to see your team's healthy, high-performance data.
I'm just going to stop that. So I'm just wondering if that's actually triggered any thoughts for you. And I love the chilling phrase, where you might be in different contexts, like it might be different projects you've got in work, or it might be work overall. It might be, in a personal situation. I was dealing last year with extreme sort of difficulty with my mum being very unwell. And, that additional sort of requirement on my time and my worry and my emotional state actually absolutely kind of, leaked into every other part of my life. So I'm wondering if you're aware of where you are, and actually where maybe some of your colleagues might be, because that aspect about burnout, people reject burnout and they move to more disconnected. So whilst there's a chilling thing in there, actually, if they become more and more disconnected from the purpose of their work, the more difficulty you have. And that's definitely bearing out in some of our data. So if you fancy, you can put it in the chat if you're thinking about it, or if that's prompted any questions for you. So, I hope you're getting an idea of what resilience is. Here's lesson number 2 for me. This is my personal lessons across all of my my work and life since the beginning of the research. Accepting stuff. Really, really difficult, right? It's very difficult in our current world to accept the reality of so much kind of throwing of our normal ways of treating one another with great respect, with human dignity, etc. Difficult to accept it. But it can be quite as, difficult to accept that somebody who's driving in front of you is so damn slow and you've got an appointment that you need to get to and they're really holding you up, right? Accepting things is absolutely an active resilience driver, right? So you can really help yourself become more adaptable if you accept currently what's going on, and also accept how you feel about it, right? Because in that, what happens is you shift towards something which is about, having a sense of agency around it, that you can shift things, you can move things, you can change things, right? On the other side of non-acceptance is you're going to get caught, right? You're going to probably get caught in a loop, and you could be getting caught in a loop of, say, resenting something. I just want to give you an example of this. So I'm married to somebody who's extremely creative, and he's a leader in creativity in the outdoors. Now, I like things, and maybe actually I should ask you this. Anyone here like lists? Maybe put it in the chat room. Do you like making lists? Anyone a list maker? Yeah, love it. No, that's right. Okay. Sometimes love lists. Okay. So those who love it, do you have a master list of all your lists? Yes, and yes, Lisa. Okay, brilliant. Anyone got a master list running all the other lists? No one's got a master list. Maybe no master list. Wife said no. No master list. Okay, so some people have a master list of all the other lists. You ever, this is the last one. Do you ever write down, and the first thing that you put on your list is the thing that you've already done to take it off to make yourself feel better? Just saying. This is slightly funny behavior. I used to do this, definitely. And a lot of this is about control, right? A lot of this is the sense of feeling in control. And during COVID, for example, people talked about control a lot because things were out of control. And if we take the world today, a lot of it is out with our direct control. Okay. Now, I'm a bit of a recovering control freak. So I quite like things to be ordered. And to be calm, actually. And in my house, that's how I like it, right? Well, my husband doesn't like that. His office is, in my view, really messy, right? But he knows exactly where everything is. I mean, it's just his way, right? But where that clashes is sometimes when it comes to in the household and how we actually relax at night. So there's an overlap. There's a sweet spot in which we can operate, both of us, in a relatively decent way, where our thresholds, if you like, are okay, right? I can completely accept that. Now, one of the things is when I get tired, I get narky and my threshold changes, right? And I actually need to accept the responsibility around that, because that threshold, that sweet spot is all of a sudden much, much, much smaller for my husband, who is still operating in that kind of threshold, assuming that that's okay. And what I need to do is both accept that I need something different in that moment and forgive myself for it, but also in that ask him to help me out. And often that acceptance of how I'm feeling, noticing it, not just acting narky, but noticing it, interrupting it, wondering where it comes from, recognizing the fatigue, all the way back to, I could do with a bit of help here. So instead of me, for example, clearing it all up, all the mess, and I've got 2 teenagers, I've got a dog, we've got a lot of kit around the place, we're outdoorsy, is actually, instead of me kind of getting grumpy and doing it all by myself and having some kind of script running, this is actually accepting it, changes all of that. So I can ask for help in this. I can also let it go much more easily. So that's a biggie. I hope that sort of example might actually ring with you. Some of you had said that you were quite fatigued. So number 1, you've got this, and go and foster those places and things that you do that make you feel like you've got it. And number 2, work towards accepting, right? And accepting really, really changes things. It shifts everything, actually. So they're 2 biggies, and we've got one right at the end. Next one. This is quite good from a Scot point of view. I'm a fan of Billy Connolly. If anyone is a real fan of comedians, he's a big, tall, lanky, crazy Scots guy. And don't take yourself too seriously, right? That's a brilliant, oh man. I don't think I have to say too much. I was going to show a video of Billy Connolly, but we don't have so much time. So after this, that's my invitation. Go and find some YouTube things of his and just go and laugh. And when you're feeling kind of a bit out of kilter, just go and have a laugh. And there's a whole ton of neuroscience behind that, about actually what's going on in your brain. Okay, and it's really, really healthy to do it. So don't take yourself too seriously. Remember, if you're a bit up yourself, I hope that's okay language to use, and go and change something. Okay, go and have a laugh. Lesson number 4. This is about habits. And you'll see behind me, I've also got this photograph. It's a Perthshire river. And we talk about resilience being like a river. So whilst there's the theory, and I showed you that video, this is a really, really simple way to think about it. Resilience is like a river. There are rocks in the river. There are stones, there's silt, there's a definition because of the banks and the direction of travel. And if the river is running at a reasonable rate, if it's high enough, it'll push over those rocks. It won't be impeded by those rocks. It won't be stopped by those rocks. And in fact, it'll push quite a lot of the rocks away. Maybe it'll carry the rocks that it needs to. When the river is low, those rocks can appear huge, completely out of perspective. You can be hijacked by the rocks. The river can be taken off course, all sorts of things. Yeah. So the idea here is for you to use this metaphor and check in with yourself to be able to understand what your reaction was all about. Oh yeah, I saw that rock is absolutely enormous because I'm really knackered. Or another way to do it is actually what's ahead of me. energy, what levels of energy and clarity do I need in order to be able to just deal with the big rocks and forget about the rest? How can I resource my river in order to be able to do this? And one simple way to think about this is to consider your energy. So if I was to ask you, what could you do as a habit, daily, weekly, to boost your energy that you're not doing currently? What would it be? You could put that in the chat. Yeah, sleep's a biggie, right? That's interesting, but focus, Ravi. So in order to focus, you need to be able to let go of focus as well. So if you're having difficulty focusing, it may be because you're not switching off fully. It's almost like an athlete or somebody, they really know how to switch off to allow recovery. And that's what the brain absolutely requires to you to then move into focus. So do pay attention to both sides of that if you're thinking about it. Do less. Yeah. Be more, do less. Good motto, Sath. So yeah, listening to music, I'm into that as well, Debbie. Yeah, and prioritize, Ravi. So that's actually, so taking time to really sit and saying, what's your criteria for what's important and what's urgent? And when things get very difficult or very busy, you should contract on that criteria. But in fact, what we tend to do is create a big list of all the things that are easy to do so we can tick them off so we can feel like we've got momentum, except we're not making any impact on the big stuff. So yeah, you'll see this across many things about effective kind of ways of handling your time. But a lot of this is actually giving your brain and your sense of yourself an ability to be able to step back and really prioritize well. So really interesting. Yeah, so have a think about that Resilience River. There's a little video of it on our YouTube channel, and maybe Donald Sath, we can send it out later as a link. So, and everybody can use it. It's just for free, and you can use it in everybody kind of gets the metaphor. And the other thing is it bypasses all that kind of psychological kind of language. So people can just say, what's your resilience river like today? You don't have to explain all the things that are going on, but you might just say, oh, it's really dry and I've got a couple of huge rocks and, I'm finding it tough right now. And other people can really lean in and help you in that. Yeah. So it's very helpful for you to be really truthful about this and think about your energy associated with that. And there are other things around your resilience as well. We've talked about learning and acceptance and being already. So cool. So that's lesson 4. Lesson 5. So we've done a lot of work on this. We worked with some qualitative and quantitative data around this. So the ratios are changing slightly, but more or less there's 1 in 2 people, similar to the cancer risk, that would say that they have experienced or could be near experiencing burnout. Okay, that's self-reported. Right, so 50% of the working population, and this is across something like 44 countries, right? So big data sets, hundreds of thousands of data points, right? 1 in 2 people are at risk of feeling burnt out at some point. Now, full burnout is a different level, okay? Your body actually really kicks in with chronic stress reaction, will become actually swollen and run down. You'll have all sorts of actual illnesses that are related quite dangerously, so people can faint or blood pressure goes through the roof or whatever. But the interesting thing about burnout, and this is one of the most tricky things, is that you don't notice it building. It creeps up on you, okay? And I would really think about this, because if you're really unable to get perspective, if you're really unable, for example, to laugh, if you're feeling disconnected from things, that's already you in a near burnout, or some of the burnout sort of danger zones. So, getting a handle on your energy, paying attention to sleep, really thinking about this, You know, it's really, really important, because once you get to burnout, it's difficult to interrupt it. Okay, and then you have to take time off, and you know, there's all sorts of things that can absolutely ruin your confidence, etc. And actually, what it really comes down to is you're just frying yourself. You know, it's like you put yourself into an air fryer, you know, and turned it on for too long. You are just over frying yourself. So that thing about focus, the rule here that we have found is about 2/3 of your time could be about focus, and 1/3 of your time in what we call fostering adaptive capacity. Now, I don't mean by that that you're actually kind of really busy. I mean quite the opposite, but you're allowing yourself to both rest and recover and then take stock. Okay, so it's perspective, it's pacing, and it's replenishing. Yeah, 3 Ps here. So think about that, okay? And you may, you know, this is a real sort of danger one, so watch out for the red flags associated with it. The next one, and about, I think this is quite an interesting one, is a lot of people in our experience don't listen to their bodies. Do you know what your body is telling you? You know, do you even notice how you feel? So I quite often get people, when I'm coaching them, to teach me how they feel. And where would I feel that? Do I feel it in my chest? Do I feel it in my tummy? Is it my back? Is it my head? My eye? What is going on in your body? If you are not tuned into your body, find a way to do that, right? Because your body is such a brilliant barometer. It doesn't lie. It's telling you the truth. It's really good data. And you just have to learn to listen to it. Okay, and don't ignore it. So you know, taste is brilliant. Smell, the olfactory aspects, that's one thing, but actually that sensory thing of somatic, really connecting with how you feel, learn to do it. Yoga, walking, mindfulness, there are lots of ways that you can do that, but just going walking for a dog with the dog, you know, can help you here. But actually just notice how your body is. Okay, make that part of your daily habit. So that's lesson number 6. Lesson number 7. This is so interesting for me. I work in a lot of really difficult areas in terms of organizational stuckness, especially in like health and social care, in governmental aspects, where collaboration is required, you know, just all sorts of things where people are trying to really do quite cool stuff, but it's really tricky. And when we're stuck, we just keep doing the same thing, right? What resilience has done is completely change how people are able to hold discomfort. And so they can lean in properly and really look at the data of what's going on, really find out. And because of that and that acceptance, they can become unstuck. It's just amazing. It's an amazing experience to be alongside a team or, you know, an organization who becomes like this. I've just been working with a charity who have completely reorganized how they're doing things because they were incredibly stuck in their processes and trying to improve, but not really creating any impact. And what they've done is loosen up and clarify their structure so much that it's all about the front line. And then everything else is backing that. And it's really all about ensuring that the front line is smooth and clear. And the organization's ticking like this, right? But beforehand, they were really tired, really difficult. They were finding too many challenges. They had too much on. All the things that you were talking about right at the beginning when you said about what resilience is. So this is really, really cool. So fostering resilience, this is one of the outcomes of it. That's number 7. Number 8. There's always a graph, right? So what we have found when you look at a set of people, you know, in any organization, is you've got a number of people who are right out front, right? And you might be some of them. The fact that you're in this learning community, it's likely that you're connecting out, you know, you might be some of the movers and shakers in your world and your organization. And then there's a bunch of people who just talk about changing or try and embrace change or find it difficult to do so, and nothing really changes at all, right? And we call them the inert, right? It's a massive kind of bulge in the middle of an organization who they may even wish to change, but they don't have the capacity for it. And then there are some who resist change, the resistors. And an awful lot of effort by leaders is spent on the resistors and not enough on this inert crew, right? And what we found is if you can actually help people's resilience increase, the barometers of change to do that are the people who are just in that middle of, I'm okay, I'm kind of coping, and sometimes I'm a bit higher, I'm able to get through challenges, but it's never kind of very stable. Riding the waves maybe, but sometimes not, maybe sort of sometimes in the middle of thinking, oh, there's too much on. If you use them as barometers of change and really aim to set up your processes, your pacing, your prioritization according to them, they will move. If their resilience goes up, they will change more. And guess what? All the people who are inert will follow as well. So people tend to follow others that are just ahead of them. Yeah. And then the whole curve moves along and the resistors are probably left. Now, some of them may have low resilience and they need special support, but some of them are just not for the organization and they shouldn't be there. So this is radical. This is a radical way of thinking about change. And when we bring it into organizations, there's a massive thing within the HR community. They kind of go, oh my God, we've got all this wrong. We haven't really thought like this. So yeah, I wanted to throw out this as a major piece around our learning that we can really, really map people according to this and pace a change program according to this kind of distribution. So I hope that makes sense. Ish on the front line on lesson 7, what I meant is frontline workers. So, kind of they were key workers in this charity. So they're working with people in the housing who need housing, who are, extreme difficulties, etc. So I hope that's okay. Yeah, Ravi, you've seen this sort of thing. I know but people who manage change and organize and plan for change don't plan it this way. It's sort of like, no. So once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's what I love about this stuff. Right, I'm cracking on. Number 9, the meaning of life, In the end, you use words like withstand. Sometimes you have to withstand things that are very difficult. And if you're doing that for a very good reason, you've got it. It matters. And you'll resource yourself to do so. If you do not do it for a good reason, you will resent it. And it will drain you, and it'll drain your energy, and that river will go down. So really being clear. And I mean, people talk about a purpose. If you like Simon Sinek, what's your purpose, as if it's singular. You'll have many. You'll have things about your family and your friends and your health. But there is a thing about, what you're about in life, your values, and how do you want to bring them alive? What are you standing for? And they do matter. So you will not withstand the kind of things that life will throw at you unless you connect with that. And if you're compromising on it, you're draining your resilience. So there's a big thought for you. And then the last one, which is the one, 1, 2, and 10 are my biggies for you, is actually just, do less, be more. So being present. We are extremely busy. And we are extremely distractible now in that busyness. So the more busy you are, if your energy drops and your river goes down and something else comes in that distracts you, right? You are you are lowering your threshold to your boundaries being clear between one thing and another. That's the time when, if you're asked to do another task, you just kind of go, oh, all right then. Rather than actually being able to say, do you know what? If you want me to do this, I'll then have to drop this other thing. Which would you like me to do? So, prioritization goes all kind of messy unless we are fostering able to be. I'm wondering what you do to be. Maybe you could share that in the chat as well. And I'll come back to all these really deep questions that you've got. What do you do to be present? Wonderful. That sounds very deliberate the way you wrote that, Lisa. Put the phone away. you tell yourself. Yeah, now there you go, Ravi. So there's a great question for you. How can you just be, and let yourself switch off for a bit? So this is part of really resting, but it's also part of the recovery process. So resting is inactive. You're actually really literally switching off. So you're sleeping, your brain is resting, your brain is working and consolidating what you've been doing in the day, but actually, your body is at rest, right? Your body's at rest. But actually, if you're not able to rest, then you never get that kind of consolidation. Then recovery after rest is much more active. It's about replenishing, it's about nutrition, hydration, reconnection, re-energizing, etc. Yes, you're physical. I'm actually like this too. So for me, I find being present is actually, I'm a mindfulness practitioner and I teach it actually. So I can do this, but my preferred way is to actually be moving my body as I'm doing it. So I love, for example, kayaking. Oh my God, it's just the most amazing thing to be on the water and for it to be so quiet, but actually I'm still moving. I've got a sense of movement in my body. That's just wonderful. Same with yoga, for example. So I really like that. I play tennis as well. So being able to be present on the court is everything. If you know any sport, if any of you follow sport, it's actually really being right there, right now, rather than, thinking about the next thing or thinking about where you've come from. It's being here, right now. So Ravi, I'm wondering, what your question is for yourself about that. So there are my 10 lessons for you, everybody. And we've come to the top of the hour. And I know you have lots of questions already in the chat, so maybe we can get to some of them. And I will just stop sharing, if that's
Great
okay.
stuff. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Jenny. Really enjoyed that. Lots to think about for us all there. I'm gonna sift back through and find some of these questions if I can spot them.
So there was a big question
There was quite a
that
few actually, wasn't there?
that somebody had about neurotypical, neurodivergent brain.
I'm not going to ask Ish's questions, which is what should he do about his wife being narrative. Can't help you there. I've
acceptance is good.
I'd like an answer to that myself.
And also supporting. So if they actually, if your wife can get a bit more energy, then
So
actually maybe that'll just solve the whole thing.
The frontline one you did answer.
I did ask that. Lisa,
yeah.
way back, asked about the neurotypical and neurodivergent
Yes, that
in
was
terms of capacity and demand. And that is really an interesting question, right? So I think, so the couple of things, I'm going to caveat our research on the basis of the original research did not take into specifically, we didn't take this as a specific lens or, set of criteria to understand this through. So it's more generic than that. And so we've been beginning to do some more, and we haven't done it full justice yet. what I can say, for example, we've looked at ADHD, because many people I think within the organisations that we work with are ADHD, and we're all sort of on that spectrum somewhere around neurodivergent. But ADHD seems to be very common. So I mean, there's a spiky nature to ADHD, and actually that is also a part of people's identity of joy in ADHD. So they don't want to give that up necessarily in terms of that sense of extremely brilliant, energetic kind of oomph that they can have. But there's also the massive crash. So what I would say is there is a recognition of the same kind of dynamic of demand versus capacity there, right? And the more you get to know yourself, the more you'll understand how to work that. But it can actually, you can drive, an ADHD person can drive the demand to be much more interesting, much more difficult, right? In order for them to feel like it's interesting enough. So the thresholds of where things need to be before there's engagement is different, right? And capacity is also different. It can be highly variable depending upon what's going on. So what I would say is that the idea of demand and capacity and understanding it is exactly the same. The different thresholds are different, right? And I think that's really important. So having somebody, you've asked about, how can this be taught and how can this, this is a whole thing within organizations for leadership to understand this more and to work alongside and appropriately pace work. And with environments actually support people who just operate in a different way, and we can all be a bit different. So I hope that helps a bit. So principles are the same. The actual inaction, it's a bit different and not necessarily as predictable as put somebody who is maybe neurotypical. So no problem with that one. Okay. So another question came up. Maybe I can get some help from Sath and Donald.
I am also actively sifting through the chat for you.
Yeah, thank you.
This is our normal experience. This is great because everybody shares and adds their own comments and gets some good stuff going.
So Lisa, you also asked for lesson 8 about that change curve and the inert. What if the line manager is the inert? So this is a real classic, actually. I would say middle managers are the most under resilience risk than I have seen, right? So we've been tracking this now since in quantitative data since the beginning of the pandemic, and we see leaders have sort of recovered, and there's a bit of a sort of optimistic kind of, yeah, hey, let's go on with it, we're back, boom. And actually the fatigue is really enormous, so the burnout risk is higher in the middle management sphere. And so actually there's very little to be done other than to really, really think about the resilience of your boss if you've got this situation, and actually how might they change. Now, that doesn't mean to say it's your problem, right? But have lower expectations. That's number one. Accepting that their resilience is under threat potentially is part of the solution here. But there's also a thing about building resilience in one another and in yourself is to take responsibility for it. So to be able to offer a compassionate sort of set of feedback, kind of going, are you all right? Are you okay? You're finding this tricky, what can we do to help you do that, or whatever. That's the sort of change, and it's non-linear. What we've found is if you help somebody build their resilience, and it can be just to listen is enough, then actually they can shift quite quickly. So if they were once upon a time at a higher level and bounced back, and because of certain context, they've shifted to more that kind of coping or not coping, actually they have potentially the ability to go back again and the capability and the skills. So how could you help them do that? That would be my invitation to you. So, instead of lambasting them, go and sit alongside them and be a bit compassionate is my invitation. Maybe not the answer you wanted to hear, by the way. When we work with teams, we actually talk about resilience as a sort of asset. So if I can hold up a glass, for example, if this is the asset, of resilience of the team, this can be passed around the place and everybody can put it in and then everybody can trade on it. Right? Don't keep it to yourself. Share the joy, around the place. So yeah, cool. Any more for any more?
I didn't see any, but as Donald's just dropped
No,
in
I
the
think
chat,
probably
welcome
I've
to.
absolutely lambasted you with 10 lessons and you can't
I
remember
think you've,
any of them.
yeah, absolutely. I think you've left everybody with much to reflect on and ponder, which is normally what our speakers tend to do here at Future Work
You
Scotland.
kind of get it all in one.
Yeah,
So
digest it. So
I mean, I
yeah,
would say a summary.
yeah,
These kind of things of using the resilience river and not taking things for granted about what actually resources you. Go and grab it. Go and get them. You'll know already. None of us are sort of early chickens here. We're not that young. So actually, you'll probably know what works for you. Well, go and pull those things out of the cupboard and actually get on with it. That's what I would say. So, yeah.
nice. I think that's a very apt and appropriate closing remark, I think, Jenny. So thank you for that. Yeah, just as we were saying, we're a little bit on the early side, but we're happy to wrap up if there's a little bit earlier than usual if there's no other questions. But we've got a few minutes, so please do take advantage of Jenny being here with us. So if you do have any questions, you're welcome to come off mute, come on camera if you're happy to do so, and ask your question verbally, or we'll keep it open for a few minutes. If not, then I'll start to bring it to a close. And don't forget, Jenny does have this fabulous book that she's authored, and Donald and I are both enjoying it. I was reading a whole section on stress, no less, this morning, which I think is very, very relevant for many of us in this very
Yeah.
turbulent and volatile times of uncertainty, as it were, which I think we're used to navigating within our workplaces, but I think it's in every aspects of our lives at the moment. So yeah, worth calling that out. But yeah, anybody want to chip in or ask you, feel free to put up your virtual hand as well, and we'll bring you in. But if not, then I'll start to wrap up in a few minutes. Jenny just said, any more for any more. I quite like
Any
that
more
phrase.
for any more, any more for any more. Or eating is good for your resilience, by the way. So, actually keeping your whole system going, and you will make poorer and poorer decisions the further away you are from food. So if dinner is calling, then
Very
there's no
true.
bad thing by saying, get on with it. Go
No,
and
absolutely.
feed your stomach. So
No, I think that's fair. We do tend to sometimes find that about 8 o'clock that we do have some of our community members dropping off for dinner and whatnot. Right, I think we're good. Thank you, Jenny. That was a great session. Really, really enjoyed that. Lots really there to think about, and I am enjoying your book. So thank you for that. I think Donald's just dropped in the chat. We do have a code to share. If folk want to pick up a copy of Jenny's book, so we do encourage you to do that. And yeah, I mean it's been a fantastic session. Thank you again, Jenny, for joining us and being our guest speaker for me. It's been great to have you here and host you. I think once we get your session up into our YouTube channel, I'm sure others will enjoy catching up on it. So thank you for that. And thank you all for joining us, and we appreciate your input, your participation in this session. Normally, we would share what we've got coming up in the pipeline, because Donna and I have been fairly diligent about that for all the years we've been doing this together. But last year we introduced a bit of a summer break, which we thought we'd experiment with, and we're going to keep that new tradition up because normally we do a session every month, the whole year round. But we're going to take a couple of months off for the summer, so we will be back in the August, back in August, in the autumn, with some exciting new, very current topics for you across the landscape of the ongoing evolution of work. So look out for those. Thank you for joining us in any other sessions you have done over the course of this year, and we look forward to bringing more exciting topics to you in the coming months and into the autumn or fall if you're joining us from North America. Nobody wants to share anything? Any other notifications or announcements anybody wants to share with the group before I wrap up? No, doesn't sound like it. Well, with that then, thank you all. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, wherever you happen to be, morning, afternoon, evening, and then we'll hope to see you all again soon with some more great sessions. And thanks again, Jenny, for a fabulous session. And we'll get your slides and things shared round. And you did have the video as well, which you didn't want to play. If you want to share a link to that,
the Resilience River
put that.
video.
Aye, okay.
I'll just ping you both.
Aye, and we'll get that shared out.
On resources that you can use. So
super. All right, brilliant.
and wishing everybody, may your resilience be with you. Go forth, make that river flow.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Great
Thanks
metaphor.
very much.
Thank you for that.
I'll just stay on for a
again.
couple of minutes, guys.
Aye, brilliant. Yeah, great. All right. Well, thanks everyone, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you for joining us.